Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm Bruce McCurdy of the Edmonton Journal's Cult of Hockey, and tonight I welcome a very special guest, special to me for sure, my son, Kevin McCurdy. And by way of explanation, I'll say this is family weekend at the Cult of Hockey. We have my usual companion, David Staples, is off in Vermilion, coaching his daughter in a hockey tournament. Our backup podcaster, Kurt Levins, and his son are in Saskatchewan visiting his dad. So you got three generations of Levins there. And our emergency backup guest podcaster, Ira Cooper, who lives in Calgary, is up here in Edmonton visiting his dad. So I'm decided, given the options available and the fact that Kevin had a chance to actually attend tonight's game and sit in the Sportsnet club seats, which I'm going to ask him about momentarily, that he would have some insights of what things were like in the building tonight and things that he observed as well. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Mm-hmm. So you were actually in Sportsnet. What's the name of the section again?
I was in the Sportsnet club actually, on behalf of my company, and it was
nice.
A pretty fabulous experience all the way around. The seating's good. The visibility is excellent. It's a very good spot to be in for observing the game.
End zone seats, my favorite. And I was sitting behind the Oilers' defensive end, so you got to see some of the excitement around Mikko Koskinen's net tonight. So before we get to the good things, I wanted to ask you about one specific thing that you would have experienced in the building, even as we watching on TV. We never get to see these things, which is the welcome back to former Oilers when they make a return to Edmonton, that they always celebrate during the first TV timeout. So, of course, watching on TV, we're seeing commercials, but you were in the building. How was Ethan received by the fans when that happened?
I would say the standing ovation said everything that needs to be said about Mr. Bear's return to the building.
Yeah, I kind of predicted that he would be very warmly received, and it was. They did show like a little tiny clip of it on TV a little bit later of just the fans' reaction and his acknowledgement, and kind of sad to see him go. It was at the time, but the least you can do is, and any of these players, it's been an amount of time here, is when they do come back to acknowledge their efforts on behalf of the home team and wish them the best going forward, as it seems we all do for Ethan Bear. He plays on a pretty good hockey team too, eh? Carolina Hurricanes?
Yeah, they were definitely the better team tonight, I'd say. There was some... it wasn't a very strong game for the Oilers, and the goaltending for Carolina was exceptional, and Aho was also exceptional. So the odds are stacked against the Oilers tonight for sure, I think.
All right. Well, we're going to go with our usual format tonight of two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. And as almost always, we'll start off with the good thing. So, Kevin, what was the good thing in your eyes in this game?
The good thing in my eyes this game was the play of
13.
Yes, Jesse Puljujarvi. Sorry, I had made about a dozen or more than a dozen notes over the course of the game, and most of them contained Jesse's name at some point or another. He took a lot of abuse tonight. He made some really brilliant plays. Overall, he seemed to be there to play to win, and it showed. He touched the puck in a lot of very useful and structural ways to the game this evening.
Yeah, he was all around it, not only touching the puck, but winning physical battles. I was scoring grade A shots for the Cult tonight in David's absence. And I had, uh, as a final count, 15-14, Carolina for Edmonton, with the Oilers getting a few late to close the gap. But I had Jesse Puljujarvi involved in 9 of Edmonton's chances. 4 of those were one battles uh, where he just got involved. He was one of the Oilers who matched up physically. I thought Carolina played a heavy, mature game tonight, and they really defended their slot with heavy sticks and getting their bodies in the way. And Yes is a big boy, and he was taking it and giving it back in his own. And he had 4-1 battles, a goalie screen, a shot of his own. Best of all was the terrific headman pass he made to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the Oilers' goal, where the puck came to him just at the Oilers' blue line, and he looked up and bang, snapped off the pass and caught Nuge sneaking in behind the Carolina defense for a partial breakaway and a great shot. But Puljujärvi's he's effective in many different areas of the ice, and he seems to be gaining more and more um, confidence in his ability to be a difference maker and to do it in his own on his own terms, which is not just. I mean, he's got skill, but he's got more than skill. He's got a physicality and a gamesmanship to him that's really enjoyable.
The other thing too about Puljujärvi's play is he not only is he generating chances offensively, but he was also generating chances to draw penalties tonight. I counted no less than 3 opportunities that were absolutely should have been called as penalties. He got clobbered in the slot twice, and once more where I believe he got smashed in the back in the boards.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unfortunate that those didn't get converted into penalties, but there were real opportunities for those to turn into penalties and subsequently power plays for the Oilers.
Yeah, I counted 4 actually, and but I saw the same thing as you did. I mean, hey, now listeners, this is my boy getting on the refs. Uh, but I mean, there was one play. It was, I thought, a good penalty by Carolina, and they would have been happy to take the penalty because it probably saved a goal where Evan Bouchard went in and jammed a shot on net. Looked like Puljujärvi had a clear shot at the rebound and a very good chance to cash, and the guy just chopped him down. Just slashed him in the skates and sent Jets ass over tea kettle in the slot. And that was one of those ones. It's an automatic call and off to the box. And you're the Carolina coach and you say that's a penalty I don't mind taking. Well, if you're the Carolina coach, it's especially a penalty you don't mind not taking.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that one was pretty brutal.
No,
And
the
yeah.
the reffing overall tonight was pretty one-sided. There was the calls against the Oilers. Cass's penalty was absolutely a penalty. This is the kind of thing when you're watching in person, like, yeah, he's going to the box for that before
Yeah.
the arm even goes in the air. And then the non-calls on the Oilers, there was, as we talked about, 3 or 4 of those, and yes, the ones that they did call were absolutely also penalties. There wasn't that they were doing game management or anything like that at that point, but there was some real misses there that the fans were upset about, and I don't think the Oilers were particularly happy with either.
Yeah, well, Devon Shore got buried into the boards in a similar manner as I can't remember which guy it was that Cassian hit, but uh, the consistency isn't always there in this league. But anyway, ultimately it was 2 power plays each, but Carolina was able to score a goal and the Oilers power play could not convert, so it wound up being a disadvantage for the Oilers. Let's move on to my good thing, and mine's kind of one of those nebulous good things, which is that it's a lot better to have a 5-game losing streak in uh, December than it is to have one in May, like the Oilers did last year, when their only lengthy losing streak of the season involved losing their last game of the regular season, followed by 4 straight in the playoffs, gone by, season over. no real chance to correct. Whereas this year they hit the skids early enough that there's obviously plenty of time left. They're still 16 and 10. They banked some points. It's discouraging how quickly they've kind of wasted that bank of points where they've slid down and they're just now, in a good contending position, but they're nowhere close to being the cock of the walk, and it just disappeared fast. I will draw the comparison to 2016-17, which remains the bellwether season for Edmonton in the last 15 years since the Cup run in 06. And that year they started off just like this year, 5-0. They lost a game, they won a couple more. I think they ran the record to 9-3-1. And then bang, 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 bang. They lost 5 in a row, all in regulation. They dropped to 9-8-1, and you think, well, they wasted that early advantage, but they got the losing streak out of their system without falling out of the race. And that season, they were able to turn it around, and they got stronger and stronger as the year went on. So hopefully that is the template for what's going to happen in 21-22, as opposed to just ending the season on a horrible losing streak like we did last year. So it's not a very real good thing to be talking about the timing of a 5-game losing streak, but that's about all I got tonight. Jesse Puljujarvi for me was the standout for Edmonton, and we can't both name the same good thing now, can we?
No, I guess not. The play tonight, I think, was relatively uninspired, just as a whole. So I can see why you're having difficulties finding much good to say. I think the boys are tired for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is 4 games in a week, and that's not an excuse, but that's also a real tough schedule. And keep in mind, everybody, my background is purely a passive, casual watcher of hockey. I used to play minor hockey for as long as I was allowed to. So not one of the finer minds of the cult of hockey, more the peanut gallery, but here to give my opinion, and if it's wrong, that's what it is. But the boys need to put in a little bit more effort, and I think there's some real obvious energy issues happening in general.
Well, that sets us up nicely for your bad thing tonight. What did you pick from the smorgasbord of bad things to?
I was woefully unimpressed with Evan Bouchard's play tonight. He was very uninspired as far as his play in general. Very lackadaisical. He got stripped of the puck in key moments. Cost the Oilers a goal. My opinion also was he was back checking with Nurse on the second goal, and this is the one that cost them. And there was I believe, some confusion as to how that back check was going to occur, and they let Carolina in and just take a shot that honestly they probably should have had better positioning on in general. And then he took not a very good penalty later in the game as well.
Yeah, on that goal, and the puck up by him at the offensive blue line, and it seemed like he was slow reacting to it. And that was not the only time I noticed that, puck kind of getting away from him and him just being slow to react a couple other times in defensive zone didn't cost him on those 100%. Plays.
He got stripped in the defensive zone too, really badly the one time where he had a clear advantage into the corner, and the Carolina guy came up and just took it away from him. And delayed reaction, I think, is 100% accurate.
Right. Yeah. Well, he doesn't play, and one of the things that has always been kind of a knock in the scouting reports, and you hear the coaches say, is that he needs to play with a little bit more urgency. And he does like to play the cool cucumber kind of game, and that on the good nights that works real well. But some nights it doesn't come across so well, and I would suggest tonight was one of those nights. He did have one very good chance at the offensive zone on his only shot of the night, but wasn't a strong showing overall by Bouchard. So yeah, it's
It was definitely a tough night for
Mhm.
him. It
Right.
was he entered my radar of players having a tough time pretty early, and he did not depart from that list throughout the entire game.
Hmm.
Um, just a tough showing in general. Urgency is exactly the right word. He needs to step it up. The speed and the intensity needs to come up. He's getting burned on plays that he shouldn't be getting burned on. And then when he does get burned, the subsequent effort to work at doing whatever he can to get back into that commanding position is just not happening.
Right on. Well, I'm going to pick for my bad thing tonight the play of Kyle Yamamoto, who remains in the Edmonton's top six, even as he's been struggling mightily. And tonight was another game of mighty struggles for Yamamoto. He played 13 minutes and 4 seconds. Uh, in fact, he played 14 minutes, just over 14 minutes in all, without so much as a shot attempt. Not only did he not have a shot attempt, the Oilers didn't have a single shot during his 14 minutes of even strength play. They were outshot 8-0 with Yamamoto on the ice in this game. And he just seems lost out there. Like he was, you had to look hard to see him. There was a couple times he was battling away and losing the battle, but joining it. And there was other times where uh, they're just he just really didn't seem to have much of a presence going on out there. And of course, he is a little guy, but he can overcome that usually with his energy, with his intuition of the game, with his high battle level. But right now, it seems like some of those attributes have deserted him, and uh, there's not a whole lot left in his game at this point in time. I didn't see much in the way of inspired passes or anything. There just was no offense at all on his side of the ice when he was out there. And I don't know what the answer is, but he's right now he's taking valuable ice time in the top six. And when you look at the list of six, he's clearly the one that's having the most trouble carrying his weight in that role. So let's move on to numbers. Kevin, you've got a number for us that's kind of jumped off the event summary at us.
Yeah, absolutely. We were looking at the event summary, and one of the things I had said initially is it's just the Oilers were hitting well tonight for the
Hmm.
by and large. They were clearly out hitting the Canes from start to finish. And the number that I've picked is Nima Lanin's 10 hits tonight.
Ooh.
Double digit hit count. That's a lot of body being thrown around, and he had some. They weren't just rub outs. There was some real knockers in that game that he was behind, and it's pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, yeah, he brings that big body, and he's been bringing it every night that he's been in the lineup. He played, I would say, quite far from a perfect game tonight, but he brings the physicality and he brings it off. And what I did notice tonight, early in the game, was one time he went a little bit out of position to make a hit, and the Oilers wound up getting outnumbered behind him.
Yeah,
And then a similar play happened on the power play goal that opened the scoring, where he kind of aggressively went at the guy at the blue line, and the odd man situation developed behind him. But in terms of bringing the straight physicality and laying a pounding on the other guys, it's easy to see why Dave Tippett likes him, because he's been bringing that every night. That he's racking up the hit counts, and as you say, Kevin, a number of them are uh, uh, you know where the other guy, he gets his pound of flesh. It's not just he's bumping the guy to finish the check
yeah,
and get a +1 in the hit column. He's thundering them down with heavy body checks. So
yeah.
he does bring an element that, in my mind, the Oilers need. But 10 hits, man, you do not see double digits in that column very often. He played just under 15 minutes in this game. So that's 2 hits every 3 minutes. That's he'll have some bumps and bruises after this one. My number is 5, and it accounts actually twice. There were 5 Oiler forwards tonight who had 0 shots on net. 4 of them had 0 shot attempts, including the entire line. This is hard to do. Derek Ryan, Devon Shore, and Colton Sevier that played the better part of 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes each at even strength. 0 shot attempts, all 3 of them. 0 shot attempts. We also had Yamamoto in that category and Ryan McLeod, who tried a couple shots but didn't get them through and onto the goalie. And that's just too much nothing going on from the bottom of the roster and the one top 6 guy. But also, this is now a homestand where the Oilers have played 4 games and they scored a total of 5 goals. 5 goals in 4 games. They still haven't shut out this year. I guess that's the good news. But 3 times they were held to 1. The other time they lost 3-2. And earlier in the season, of the first 21 games Edmonton played, they scored 5 goals in 12 of those games. 5 goals per game, 12 different games. Now it's taken a 4-game homestand to muster their way all the way up to 5 measly goals. And it's just like the offense has just been raptured and disappeared from the team for now. Game after game, it's all 4 games of the homestand, they've fallen behind 2-0. And each game they scored halfway through the second period to make it 2-1, kind of make it interesting. But only in one game did they muster the tying goal. That was against Boston. And then, of course, they gave up the late winner in that game. And all the other games, they're basically chasing from the first period for the entire rest of the night. And it's counting the loss in Seattle now. The Oilers have played 5-game losing streak, 300 minutes. They've been tied for 36 minutes and trailing for the other 264 minutes. Never had
It's
a
not
lead
going to get it
once.
done.
Never had a lead once in the 5 games. So it's just the same old problem where not only are they giving up the first goal in the game now, they're giving up the first 2 goals in the game. Good luck with that.
No,
So,
that's absolutely not going to get it done by any stretch of the imagination. And it was apparent in the building tonight that it was a bit of a shooting gallery, especially sitting in the defensive end. The shot generation by the Oilers, the slot presence is just not that good. And the slot presence of Carolina is significantly better in the opposite direction. So both of those things really heavily stack the deck against the Oilers. And even to your point about the top 6 overall, I mean, the play from everybody tonight was really underwhelming. Like I said, Nuge and Jesse Puljujarvi being sort of the lone exceptions that stuck out to me as guys that were there to play. And McDavid made some room and some nice opportunities, but he seemed muted by McDavid standards, and Draisaitl seemed muted by Draisaitl standards, and that's tough, man. If you can't put the puck in the net and you can't also defend the first period, then you're behind the 8 ball 10 times out of 10.
well, part of that credit we're due Carolina's first D pairing of Jacob Slavin and Ian Cole. I thought they had terrific games, and they were. It's really hard to get through them. They were like a forest of sticks and legs and other various body
Absolutely.
parts. But the Oilers, they made some poor decisions passing off when they should have shot a few times, and then I mean, sure, once in a while that's going to work and be a tap in, but you need to execute more than 5 times in 4 games. So one last question for you, Kevin, in terms of being in the barn. On TV, it just sounded like there was a few scattered boos as the clock wound down at the very end. How loud did that sound? Was that
It
significant?
was significant. It was
Uh-huh.
not the crowd was not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reffing also took about a similar level of distaste from the crowd at a couple of points during the game for some of those missed calls, but
Right.
the fans definitely let their displeasure be known to the home team on their way out of the building, as several of them were on their way out of the building at the time. So it was, I think that's a tough spot for the Oilers to be in. It's hard to gain momentum when your fans have even started to decide that yeah, your play is just not inspired. You're cutting it.
Well, it's kind of two sides to that coin. One part of me doesn't mind the fans delivering the message that this wasn't good enough, and at the same time, you want the fans to be fully behind the team. So it's kind of trying to find a balance. But I didn't totally hate the fact, like it didn't sound like there was 18,000 and 25 people raining booze down on the players, but it sounded like there was enough to be heard. Let's put it that way.
There wasn't 18,000 fans left in the building by the
No,
time
right.
that chair
Once that
or
awful 3-1 goal went in on a crappy bounce and the crappy subsequent misplay by Koskinen, which we didn't even talk about as a bad thing. But once that went in, I could imagine there was a stampede for the exits at that moment in time. So
that was a really frustrating goal to watch.
I'll
It's
say,
hard to not give Koskinen at least part of the blame for that, but that bounce was really unfortunate too. So you can't totally tie an anchor around his ankles and throw him off a bridge, but uh, it was tough.
yeah, the Maple Leafs won a game tonight on a bounce very similar to that. It's funny how it works sometimes. Anyways, I think we've gone over it front to back as much as we need to, and I do want to say thank you, Kevin, for pinch hitting for David, for Kurt, and for Ira, and at least giving an alternate perspective to my own, which the other alternative was fly solo and do a one voice podcast. And it's always more fun to have a conversation about a hockey game. And I hope that you and your wife were able to enjoy the evening out, even with the less than perfect outcome.
Absolutely. No, it was a great evening, and thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure being here, and hopefully the fans have enjoyed the opinion of the peanut gallery a little bit.
Yep. Well, it's a fairly populous place, the Gallery in Oil Country, and thanks for representing it. And I also want to say thank you to you, the listener, for listening. And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.